Nope. Yeah, we'll just record it for.
I watch so many of these videos afterwards,
Hey.
and I feel like I know Cameron like my heart.
Yeah, exactly.
We've been friends for a year now.
Yeah.
He doesn't know it.
I just don't know you.
That's awesome. Well, while we're waiting for other people, what are your guys' names?
Casey,
Casey, I'm Jordan.
Jordan.
Nice to meet you.
Meet you. Ian, good to meet you.
Ian
Jordan.
Yeah.
and Sophia.
Nice
Nice
to
to
meet
meet you. So yeah. Okay. Okay. Perfect. That sounds great. I'm excited. So Ian, Casey, right? Casey and Sophia. So how long have you guys been agents? Not yet. Okay, awesome. Well, way to go for being here. You're gonna hit the ground running when you're licensed. Yeah, that's awesome. How about you two? Okay, so you're in the same boat. Dang, I'm sorry. Hope that happens soon.
I've been in sales since 2005.
Okay.
I left real estate sales, downturn 2011.
Yeah.
So I went back to construction and now I'm finally back. But I haven't done.
Okay,
I
awesome.
haven't done general real estate yet, so this is. I gotta learn this side.
Yeah.
Back to basics.
There's a lot to learn. And even once you get your license, a lot of what you learn to get your license, I'm not going to say doesn't apply to being a real estate agent. You need to know that information. You need to know how to not to get in trouble. But that doesn't help you necessarily get transactions ultimately, right? So classes like these are where I first started and found to be the most effective by learning from people who are in the ground right now doing what I was trying to do, what you guys are going to be trying to do, and getting so many different perspectives on what works. Because the truth is, there's a lot of different ways you can go about it. There are definitely some principles that you need to follow that any successful agent will have, but there are quite a few differences. And so my invitation to you today, hearing from me, is not to take everything I say necessarily as you have to do exactly that, but more so to take what I do and take the parts that you feel most comfortable with, or that you feel like are resonate the most with you, and then as you continue through your own experience and as you continue to go classes like these, you'll learn other things that will help you along the way. Sophia? Yeah. It's a great question. So I started out as an agent in 2018. So I just hit my 8-year mark this month, actually. And all of that has been here with Keller Williams. I've never left. I've been on a team before and learned a lot of really valuable things. And then I kind of did an experimental team for a year. I don't need to get into too many details on that, but I led a team for a year. Then I went solo again, and now actually this month launched my own team called Fortiva that I'll be doing. So yeah, every team is different in how they go about that. Some teams pay for leads that they'll give to you. Some teams have so much business coming through that they can't handle them all, so they send those to the team. Every team's a little bit different in how they go about leads, but it's a very good question to ask because to me it depends on where you want to get your business from. So for me, 100% of my business comes from friends, family, and referrals. I don't personally pay for any leads. The only lead sources that I've closed that have not come from friends, family, and referrals are like a sign call of a house I was selling and somebody was interested and I was able to help them, or doing an open house and meeting somebody that way. So those are like my lead generation tools that I've used the most. But I don't pay for any type of leads. Yeah, Zillow has leads that you can buy. There's different online websites. RedX has different leads. Some of them are categorized by what kinds of leads they are. So if they're a for sale by owner type of a lead and you just call for sale by owners a lot, or expired leads. So there's different sources that you can get to for that. But and there's nothing wrong with those types of leads, again, it goes back to what do you feel most comfortable with? And for me personally, I didn't like the cold calling as much. And so I wanted to build my business in such a way that I would work with people that I already knew or that knew someone I already knew, and for the most part. And so that's how I built my business. But yeah, I would definitely encourage you guys to at least try out doing leads, because if nothing else, it gives you really good practice and experience and being on your feet and being able to know what to say to people, because the same types of conversations you'll have with those people, you're going to be having with your friends and family, and you want to be more prepared and more experienced. You're good. Mhm. I'm glad you asked that. This is good and bad. Okay. My first year, I took 6 months and I closed one sale. And it was my uncle who was doing me a favor, who, I had other people to pay as far as my coach. And I had somebody helping me out on another agent mentoring me on that transaction. And and we gave my uncle a really good deal. So long story short, I made maybe $1,000 on my first transaction, my first 6 months as an agent. Not good. Then I went, it depends. It depends on how you work it out. I had worked out a deal that I would pay him half of what I made on that first transaction, just because he was helping me a lot. But I obviously needed to make some money. So I went out and I had done summer sales 6 years prior to that. And so I went out and did one more summer of sales, got a little bit more money, came back, and then started hitting the ground. And that's when I started closing more consistently. And I've just been full-time agent ever since then. So it's hard because it's a sales thing, right? It's commission based, 100% commission. You don't earn money unless you close a deal. But that doesn't mean that if you've been getting close with people that you haven't been progressing, right? But the analogy I use is you can know steps 1 through 99, but if you don't take it all the way to 100, you still get paid 0. But that doesn't mean that you haven't been progressing, that you haven't been learning, and it does take some time for the people that you know to gain that trust in you a little bit as an agent, because really people are looking for someone that they like and someone that they can trust, both on a personal level but as well as a professional level. And if they don't have that trust in you, then they may not be ready to work with you yet, and that's okay. But that's something that you guys can work with. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Right. So I feel this way anywhere I go that requires a professional on the other side that I'm working with, not in real estate, anywhere else. If they are new, but they're working with somebody that is experienced, I don't have a problem with that personally. And so if they're new and they're trying to do it all on their own, and I can tell that they're making mistakes, they don't really know what they're doing, that's when I, as a client, feel a little bit uncomfortable and might want to switch to somebody else, right? I feel like most people feel that way about real estate agents. If you're new, that doesn't mean that you're immediately not trusted. But if you're new, you can either use, if you're on a team, you can use the experience of your team or of your mentor or of Keller Williams in general. We're the largest brokerage in the world, and especially here in Utah. You can use that as leverage and say, you don't have to necessarily tell people I'm brand new. And in fact, in most cases, I'd probably recommend you don't say that. If they ask, you don't have to lie, but I would definitely lean on the brokerage or the team that you're on as you, because really they'll be backing you. They'll be watching out for you and making sure that those big mistakes don't happen. So, but I do think it's very important to have a mentor in some capacity from the start. There's a lot that can go wrong. And as much as I have a philosophy that I pay for my education through my mistakes sometimes. If I can avoid those mistakes, that's a lot better. It saves me money and I still get to learn, right? Yeah, great questions. But so today we're going to be talking about the buyer consultation. Who can tell me what a buyer consultation is? Have you guys heard of that before, or is this a new thing for you? Yeah, exactly. Yep, exactly. So this is the meeting that you will have one-on-one with somebody who is thinking about buying or is ready to buy or is unsure about the process of buying, and you're there to help educate them. Your goal as an agent is to get them to buy a house that day. Or what is your goal?
Build trust.
Build trust to the point that they sign a document. Do you know what that document is called? The buyer broker agreement. That's exactly right. The buyer broker agreement is required to be signed by the buyer and by the sellers, or sorry, by the buyer and by the agent prior to what? Prior to showing homes. That's right. So to me, the easiest and most comfortable setting to have that signed is not while I'm on my way to the house to show a client a house for the first time. And oh, by the way, let me send this to you real quick via email, have you sign it, and then we'll be good, right? It's a much more professional way and much more comfortable way to do it in a setting like this, where you're sitting down with them already. So within sales, there's a lot of mini sales that happen along the way. So what I mean by that is when you're first having a conversation with somebody, the goal is not to get them to buy a house today. The goal is to figure out what their goals are, and to figure out how you can help them accomplish that next step. So when I'm having a conversation with somebody, my first sale, so to speak, is to see if I can schedule an appointment with them to do a buyer consultation or a seller consultation if we're doing that. Then at the seller's consultation or the buyer's consultation, my goal, again, is not to get them to buy a house today, but it's to get them to sign an agreement with me today. That's the next mini sale. After I'm able to do that, then the goal is to find the right house for them and get them to write an offer, right? So all these little things have to happen in order to get to that ultimate sale at the end, right? But that's kind of how I envision it as I'm having conversations with them, is to see if I can get them to a point where we can have a consultation. So today, because of time, we don't have time to go through the entire thing, but what I'm going to do today is give you an example of what I do in my own personal consultations. And again, this may be a little bit different than what all other agents do, but this has worked for me, and it's worked really well. I should probably keep track of the number of, well, I do keep track, but I don't remember the numbers of how many consultations I've had versus sales or versus signed agreements. But it's pretty close to probably 90% of the time that I meet with somebody, they end up signing to work with me, which is great. So this works for me. It works really well. And there's a guide that you guys have access to. I don't know if you've seen this. Let's see. This one here. There's a whole presentation that's already pre-built for you, and you can download it and upload it back into Canva and edit it yourself and do this. But
What do you use yourself?
I don't. This was made after I had already essentially made mine. However, I tweak mine all the time. At least once a month, I'm changing things within my presentation as I learn different ways to be successful, as I have conversations with people and I'm learning, you know what, I don't really like this part. This doesn't flow very well. So I'm always changing it. And I encourage you to do that. But it's good to have at least a base that you're comfortable with. So Ritz I'm pretty sure he'll send this to you. If you don't have access to it, you'll get access to it. But this one is mine, that I built and that I use every day. I don't know if this thing works. Okay, it does. Sweet.
Put this on like a laptop, or do you do this?
Good question. I print it out, and the printer here is amazing. I used to print this at my own printer at home, but it's like 28 pages of, obviously you can see I use a lot of color, and it doesn't always come out right on my own printer at home. And so this printer here is amazing, and it's like super inexpensive compared to like going to a print shop or something. So I'd encourage you to use the printers here. You can. So what I do is I just print it out on regular paper. I just do one sheet each. And then I bought this little machine that pokes the holes at the top, and I have this little coil that I send through it. Like, it's super easy. Yeah, it's almost like a flip chart. I should have brought one, but that way. And then I put on the front, there's like, I got this all from Amazon. The front is like a plastic cover. And then the back is like a dark blue plastic cover to match my branding. But yeah, it takes me 5 minutes to put that together, and then it's tailored to them. Because as you see, name, obviously I'll change that to whoever I'm meeting with. That's where I'll put their name. So it's like personal for them, and they're gonna go home with that at the end of our conversation, unless they're already home, then they get to keep it. So But before we get into this, I'll tell you the wrong way to go about the presentation is to sit down with them and go through your presentation and then ask them to sign. What is missing? Buy-in, yeah. And how do you get their buy-in? They have to talk, which means we have to do what? We have to ask questions. So before I even pull this out of my bag, I sit down with them and I have another form that I use that I'll be happy to share with you guys. I call this my consultation form. This form is important because of a couple of reasons. When I first sit down with somebody, I want them to feel like I care about what they're saying. And so I feel like writing it down, there's no way I'm going to remember all the details of our conversation. And so I feel like writing it down shows them that I truly care about them and their conversation. It also helps me be a little bit more prepared because by the end of our conversation, most of this, if not all of this, will be filled out before I even get to the presentation part. So I'm asking a ton of questions, and these are all specific questions. And I'm going to put a quick little plug in for a specific sales program if you guys are interested. It's a book by Neil Rackham called Spin Selling. Have you guys heard of it before? Totally fine. Highly recommend it because it applies super well to our industry. There's different approaches on sales, and I'll just give you a quick 1-minute version of what his sales approach is. There's a lot of different sales approaches out there that work really well. What he did, his is backed by a ton of research, and basically he's determined that there's 2 types of sales. There's big sales and there's small sales. Small sales are things that don't require a ton of thinking. They don't have a ton of consequence if you get it wrong. So for example, if you're selling a pen, like unless you're selling $1 million pens, which I don't even know if those exist, it's super cheap. If somebody buys a pen and it doesn't work, their life is not ruined. Like, yes, it may be frustrating a little bit, but it's not that big of a deal. And so if they're using a pen that doesn't work very well, and then you say, hey, I've got a pen that works really well, I'll sell it to you for $5, chances are they'll go for it because there's not a lot to lose there. Those are small sales. And the tactics that work really well for small sales are the exact tactics that push away buyers for big sales. And what we're doing is big sales. It's a relationship. In a sense, I know it sounds really weird, but we're almost selling a relationship. That's what we're doing. We're not necessarily selling a house. We're not trying to convince somebody to get into a house that doesn't fit their needs. We're trying to convince somebody to work with us if we're the right fit for them. And that relationship to me is the biggest sale that we have. And because of that, doing the tactics that are like high pressured or trying to get somebody to do something, those don't work with a relationship. Right. So the approach for spin selling, it's SPIN. S is situation. These are the type of questions that you should be asking in order to get to the sales. So S is situation questions, basic information. That's what I have here at the top, the info. You need to know their name. It would be helpful if you knew what job they do, what their hours were, if they have kids, where they live. That stuff is important. You need to know that, but that doesn't necessarily help you close the deal. Would you agree? Okay. So we should limit the amount of situation questions we ask, but we do need to know some of it. Then P is problem questions. A lot of times when you're asking them, so what isn't working for you about this? And they say a problem. So we're going back to the pen example. Well, every time I write, the pen, it kind of skips some letters sometimes. You've had pens that have done that before, right? You start to write on them and sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not. That would be the problem. So if I'm asking questions, what problem do you have? They describe that problem. In a small sale, that's all I need to know. And immediately I can say, well, I have a pen that doesn't do that. It's super smooth. It writes ink every single time. I'll sell it to you for $2. With small sales, that's really all you need. You need some situation information and you need some problem information, and then you can make a sale. What mistake a lot of people make is that's what they try to translate that stuff to stuff like what we do. And they say, maybe what kind of problems are you having? Well, I'm tired of renting because I want to paint the walls, but I can't, or I want to hang pictures up and I can't do that, or I want to get a pet and my landlord won't let me. Those are some problems that people may have, right? If you stop there and say, okay, you have a problem. Okay, sweet. Well, then let's get you to buy a house. because then all those problems will be solved. The problem with that is it's too big of a gap. There are other ways to solve that problem that don't require them jumping through as many hoops as it takes to buy a house. And so because this is a bigger sale, we have to dig deeper. We have to ask more detailed questions. So we do need to know some problems, but then after the problems, we need to help them understand that if those problems continue, what are the negative consequences? And that's the I in spin selling. I is implication. What kind of implications does this problem cause if this problem continued or if this problem got worse? How is your everyday life? How do you feel about every time you come home? And if you were to do that for 5 more years, how does that affect how you deal with your job, or how does that affect your relationships with your family, or that kind of thing? We got to dig deeper. And that's what implication questions are. Help them understand that if this problem continues, how bad is it going to be? And in what areas of their life is it going to affect them? The last one is the need payoff. The need payoff is essentially the type of questions that we ask to get them to help us say, if that problem were fixed, it's kind of the opposite of the implication. If that problem were fixed, then what does your life look like? How does that benefit you? In what ways does that benefit you? If they're buying a house, there's a lot of different ways it could benefit them. And it depends on their situation. But most people would say something like the financial side, that they feel like they're not throwing money away in rent, that they're able to, start building equity and build wealth through real estate. For some people, they do care about painting the walls and that kind of thing. They want something more stable. There's a lot of different reasons. And who tells you those reasons? They do. Will every buyer that you ever meet just automatically blurp out all that information? No. Most people don't, right? We have to be the ones in control to ask them the questions. So that was kind of that's my approach when I'm asking questions is, if I sit down in a buyer's consultation and I do more talking than they do, I've done it wrong, right? Everyone likes the person that allows them to talk about themselves. Everyone loves to talk about themselves. And when you're meeting with somebody, you need to make sure that they feel that you allow them the space to talk about themselves and what are their goals, what are their interests, what do they know about real estate, what problems have they had before. And so I built this guide to kind of help remind me of those types of questions that I should be asking. I don't necessarily go, okay, number 1, number 2, number 3. I kind of bounce around a little bit depending on the flow of the conversation. But this is all information that I need to know. So I need to know their motivation. Why are they buying? And I have 1, 2, 3. I want to get at least 3 reasons, 3 genuine reasons why they're interested in buying. Why do you guys feel like that might be helpful to know? Yeah, it is a hot button. I'm familiar with hot button.
It's the button you have to push to help them through, because that's ultimately like the pain and the motivation.
Yeah, it can be. And so do you think that from this point forward as a buyer, everything is going to go smooth and perfect and there's never going to be any problems? It's almost never that way, right? Our job as agents, and this is what I tell them often, is to try and smooth out those speed bumps along the way. But there will be some bumps along the way. It's inevitable. This is a big deal. So knowing their motivations when we're going through a difficult time and they may feel discouraged, or maybe they're thinking, you know what, maybe I should just wait another year to buy a house. We can bring up their motivation as a way to remind them that, hey, yes, this is hard, but it'll be worth it because of these reasons. And it's not reasons that you tell them. It's reasons that they've told you. Because your reasons for buying a house, although some of them may overlap, may be completely different than their reasons of buying a house. And who cares what your reasons are if they don't care about that, right? Does that make sense? So we have to learn from them, what are their reasons? Why do they care about it? I also like to ask the question, what if they don't buy? Again, this is kind of an implication question. What happens if you don't buy? What in your life is going to be affected? And going back to their motivation, whatever their motivations are not going to be accomplished if they don't buy. And so it's kind of a way to remind them that how important that is and what's going to happen. I like to know their experience. How many homes have they purchased? If this is their first home, or have they already done this 10 times. If they have purchased a home, I want to know what went well. Why would that be a good question to ask?
So you can repeat that.
Exactly. We're getting the answers to the test. We're basically asking them, what do you look for in an agent? But in a way that isn't asking them that question directly. And that's not a problem to ask that question directly. A lot of times that's a good question to ask, but this is another way to phrase it to give you a little bit more. Because whatever they tell you about what went well, do you think that mattered to them? I think so. That's why they're telling you, because that's what's coming to mind for them, because it mattered to them. What didn't go well, same thing. Like you said, so we can learn what to avoid or what to make sure that we do better so that doesn't happen to them again this time. We need to know about their financing. I like to know where their down payment's coming from, roughly how much they're planning to spend. If they're down, a lot of times their down payment's coming from the sale of their house. And this may be the first time you learn that they're actually needing to sell their house in order to buy. Ultimately, they want to buy, but they may not have told you that, oh, by the way, to get there, we have to sell. This is a way to find that out. I want to know their goal for their new home, who will be involved in the decision. Why might that be helpful to know? Yeah. I've had situations before where it's a husband and wife, and I ask this question and they're really close to one of their parents, and they want the parents to come to every showing. Is that a problem? It's not a problem as long as we know about it. It can make it complicated sometimes, but I would much rather find that out now than later. Do you have to get a buyer broker agreement signed for the parents in that situation? No, they can come along. That's no problem. Yeah.
They be like, oh, like they're renting, so they never bought a house. And they're like, I don't know what I want, right? Like, I have no.
Yeah.
Like, they have serious.
And a lot of people are going to be in this situation. And that's why I need to talk about this, because in order for them to know, in order for us to proceed after this, their first step, if they haven't done it already, is to talk to a lender and figure out the financing side and get a pre-approval letter. That has to be the first thing. And I emphasize that in the presentation a little bit. But these types of questions kind of give me an idea of where they're at. Have they already spoken with a lender? Would they like me to put them in touch with one that I trust? Or what? So, yeah. Concessions. This is like, do they have enough money for their down payment and to pay their closing costs? Or am I going to need to be aware of that so that when we're writing an offer, we ask for the seller to pay for their closing costs for them? These are the types of questions that you need to ask. And then last, at the bottom section, search criteria. This is the fun part. So you do want to emphasize this a little bit because all this other stuff is kind of boring for them. The fun part is talking about their future home. Everyone loves to talk about that. Everyone has these dreams. And so these types of questions you should be asking to really get a better sense of what they're looking for. And then to dig deeper, kind of like those spin questions. Let's say they say, well, we need 4 bedrooms. Okay, well, why do they need 4 bedrooms? I see that they don't even have any kids yet. Why are they wanting 4 bedrooms? Instead of just saying, okay, 4 bedrooms, got it. Maybe I would ask them, what would you use the rooms for? And maybe they'll say, well, we want one as an office. We want one as a craft room. You know, they'll tell you. And so then you could say, well, maybe if there's a home that has 3 bedrooms, but it has a dedicated office, would that work for you? And they may say yes. So you have to dig deeper. You can't just take what they say as concrete. Dig a little deeper, find out what they're meaning by that. The other thing too is if they say, well, we want a 1/4 acre. Ask them what they want in a yard, because or actually, this is a better example. Sometimes they'll say something like, well, I want a nice backyard. Well, what is a nice backyard to you versus to that person versus to me? What I consider a nice backyard may be completely different. So you've got to just go a little bit deeper and say, well, what does a nice backyard look like for you? And that's when they can tell you. So again, this is a lot of questions, and this is them answering questions and then you asking more questions about that. It's digging deeper. That way, this takes a little bit of time.
I was just gonna say, there's a really good book called Question Behind the Question.
Oh, okay. Haven't heard of it. Yeah. Okay, well, that's a good one. The question behind the question. And it really, do you feel like if a buyer were to walk away after this consultation and you've asked this many questions about them, they've had an opportunity to speak about so many things, how do you feel like they feel about you? Like at the end of this conversation, what might they think of you? Yeah, that you really care about them, right? And that you understand them. And this is usually about my final question before I move on to the presentation. After going through all of this and asking all the questions I can think of that would make sense to it, I usually ask something like, is there anything more that you feel like I should know about your situation that would help me help you better? Or or just asking them, do you feel like I have a good sense of what you're looking for? 95% of the time they say yes. That essentially gives me permission to now go through my presentation. I can't go through my presentation until I've gotten their permission to do that. If for whatever reason they say, well, we also want this, sometimes they just forget to bring something up, or sometimes I didn't ask a particular question that they feel is important. That's when they'll bring it up usually. And then we can resolve that, and then we can move forward. So you've got to get into the practice of asking, and never assuming to the point that you don't ask. Meaning, most people do care that they're building equity. And that's fine for you to assume that, as long as you make that a question and say, how do you feel about building equity? Why is that important to you? And then having them tell you, as opposed to just being, well, yeah, you're buying a house, so of course you care about equity. Like everyone cares about that, right? No, like they have to be the ones to voice it, because this is most likely their first, maybe their second, maybe their third, but like they don't go through this very often. You guys are going to be going through this weekly, right? They don't do this very often. So we have to make it not routine for them, even though sometimes it may feel a little bit routine for us. And that's why I like my outline, because then it's not question 1, question 2, question 3. I let the conversation go wherever it goes, and it's going to be within this range. And I'm filling out different information, different parts, skipping around. And then at a glance, there may be a pause, and I can look down and be like, okay, we don't know anything about financing yet. Let's talk about financing. So then I can do that. But any questions about this guide? This is not a guide I give to them. Yeah, absolutely. $1,000. No, I'm just kidding. I'll send that. I'll have Rit send it out. And you can copy it, duplicate it, and make it your own, whatever. But this is not something I give to them. This is just something I keep for me. And then it also helps because when we go see houses a week later, I'm working with multiple different people. It can be hard to remember exactly what they wanted, or what their motivations were. So I reference it and review it a little bit before I meet with them again, especially where it comes to kids. People, as a parent, love when you're kind to their children. And when you can remember their names, that's a big deal. So I have to write them down or else I will not remember. And then before I meet with them again, I review this and say, okay, their 8-year-old is this name, that way when I see him, I can go give him a high five and say hi to him. It's just a little thing that I feel like goes a long way to show that I care about these people, right? So, okay. So once I ask that final question, is there anything more you feel like I should know in order for me to better serve you? And they say, no, I think we've covered it all. Great. Would you mind if I take a few minutes to kind of go through my process? And of course, by then they've been talking most this whole time. Now it's kind of my chance to go through my presentation. And I try and do it in a quick way, not rushed, but in a way that that doesn't make it overwhelming, or that it doesn't make the appointment go too long, while still covering the things that I need to cover. And here's the thing, my presentation is 28 pages. That's essentially the same for every person I meet with, but where I choose to spend time talking will be different according to the answers that they've given me here. If they've already bought 3 homes, they're familiar with what it takes to buy a home in terms of financing and stuff. So I don't need to harp on that section very much. If they're a first-time home buyer, that's probably an important section to talk about a little bit more. So I tailor where I'm talking a little bit towards where they're at. So for the last 20 minutes or so, I would love to do like a role play on the presentation. I think that's going to be easier for me to show you how I do that. We didn't do a really good role play for the questions part, but I hope that that was effective, and want to emphasize that this is what makes an agent. If you walk away after this and you've gone through all this and asked the right questions, chances are you're going to get the deal, even if you're new. Because here's what happens, what I've seen, and it's a tendency to happen after you've done this for a while. You meet with somebody else and, okay, first time home buyer, yeah, I already know what they're going to want to say. I already know this. And it goes back to what I was saying. If they're not the ones telling you, this is their first time. If they don't have the opportunity to tell you how they're feeling about things and what matters to them, and we just assume we know, which can happen the more you do this. Because yes, a lot of them are similar. And so if a lot of experienced agents may not ask as many questions because they already know. And how does that person feel about them compared to maybe you're brand new, but you've went through all of these questions. You spent 30, 45 minutes talking about them. Most of the time you have an opportunity to win that business, even if you're going up against somebody that's experienced. So don't be afraid if they say, oh, I'm meeting with so-and-so, and you know that, okay, they do a lot of business. How am I ever going to get this? Ask a lot of questions. It's not guaranteed, but it's going to give you your best chance. All right?
I thought,
What?
Have an ingredient, right, and
100%. In fact, that's what this one, oh, I don't have it on here. But that is a question I always ask, is who else are you meeting with? You've got to ask that question. It can be uncomfortable, but you have to ask that, because I've had situations where I assume that, oh, they're a friend of mine. They're not, like, they reached out to me. Of course they're going to work with me. And in a way, it kind of makes you feel like, oh, okay, I can kick my shoes off. I can relax. Like, they're fine. Like, you don't want to be caught off guard with them calling you afterwards and be like, hey, I appreciate you coming over, but actually we met with so-and-so and we're going to go with them. And you're like, wait, what? I didn't even know you were meeting with anybody else. I always ask, who else are you meeting with, or who else have you met with, or who else are you planning to meet with? A lot of times they'll say nobody, but sometimes they will say, well, I'm thinking about a couple people. If they've already met with somebody, what I'd like to ask is, what did you like about them? Because again, it's kind of that same question. It just helps us know what's important to them. It's another way of asking what's important to you. And to make sure that when we're in the presentation part, that I bring those things up, that, hey, yeah, we can do that too, or I can do that too. Yeah. Okay. So did you have a question?
I had,
Yeah, go for it.
do you, that or that presentation that you have,
Uh-huh.
it's gonna be role playing presentation. Is there any way we can like quickly run through the slides before we role play?
Well, that's what I was thinking. I think for sake of time, because we only got 15 minutes, I'd rather just go through it as if you were each of you my buyers, and I'll just go through it like I do normally. So we will go through everyone. And yeah, we'll see if we can get through it all.
I'm pretty confident.
Okay. Let's see.
Ever like look at their cards or look at their kind of like previous buying decisions that they've already made. Some directive.
I mean, yeah, any information you can gather about that kind of stuff is helpful, to the point that you make it clear that, in fact, I have a sheet that I give them of do's and don'ts that I will, by the end of this presentation, I'll give them a little folder that goes over the do's and don'ts of between now and the time you're buying your house. Don't go get another loan somewhere without discussing it first with your mortgage lender. Because for some people, they could go get a car and it doesn't affect them at all. Their debt to income ratio is still great. It's fine. For other people, it'll make or break it and they say, actually, you can't buy a house now, or the amount that you qualify for is $100,000 less because you just went out and bought that car. So I do go over that again, based on their experience. Most people that have bought homes multiple times are familiar with it, but I always have that there. And I just say, because it's easy to forget sometimes, I would encourage you to just read over this once so that you remember what to do and what not to do. So, okay. So after going through those questions, I've just asked them, is there anything else that you feel like I should know? They say, no. Great. Would you mind if I spend a couple of minutes and kind of tell you about my process, and we can tell you and talk about that? Like, yeah. Okay. So then I pull this out and I'm just flipping one by one. In some situations, I may pull it up on a screen, but it's pretty rare. So the first thing I did is I'll talk about me a little bit. I tell them about my experience. And again, this is where you guys can talk about the experience of the team that you're on or of the brokerage that you're at. You all have that. So I would encourage you to get some statistics on our brokerage, figure out, what can you say to say, this is who I'm with. This is why I chose Keller Williams, because that will translate to you getting kind of piggybacking off of the success that we've had. I have a slide about client testimonials where I have some testimonials of different clients that I put on there with, and then the next one, I show them how I provide value. And I didn't put these on there because I just wanted to go quicker on these. And every agent brings something different to the table. So for me, I've built a lot of guides and checklists for people. So I have like a landlord success guide if they want to become their own landlord. These are some tips for you. I have obviously preparing to buy. I have a bunch of different checklists. Anything that you're trying to do in real estate, I have a checklist for it. And so I kind of tell them about that if you have any questions about anything, I'm your guy. Then I talk about my motto, which for Keele Real Estate is relationship over transaction. I tell them what that means to me. I ask them, what comes to mind when you hear relationship over transaction? I want them to know that I am more interested in building a relationship with this person than I am to just get them to buy a house. Because I would hope, and what's proven to be true, is that the better relationship I have with you, they feel confident and comfortable sending family and friends my way. And it's kind of my reminder for them that I am looking for more opportunities. And so if you know of somebody that's looking to buy or sell, I'd be happy to have a conversation with them. And then I tell them who's on my team. Now, even if you're a solo agent, and this is what I've been doing for a long time, I have been a solo agent. I have a photographer who's on my team, like he's in my corner because I pay for the photographer. I have a TC, and I would think that do you guys all have a TC? Transaction coordinator, someone that does all the paperwork and puts it into command and makes sure that you're compliant and all that. Highly recommend it. That's probably the best money that you can spend in real estate as an agent that has a big return on it because it takes a lot of time away from you. It's very inexpensive. They're paid per transaction, so you're not paying them out of pocket. You're only paying them when you close a deal. And every TC is different, but between $250 and $500 is what it costs for that.
Usually that charge in the contract or do you pay out of your?
I just pay it out of pocket. You can add that to the contract if you'd like. I just pay for it. Yeah. So those are the people that are on my team that I have a slide that shows it. And I think it's important because there's a lot that can happen. Oh, and this is another one that you guys, I encourage you to use, and I use a lot, is you guys, newer agents at Keller Williams. So what I say is, what would happen if I'm out of town and you found the perfect home and you want to go see it today, but I can't show it to you till next week. And then next week comes by and I come back from out of town, and by then it's already sold or it's already gone under contract. How would you feel about me? And of course, what are they going to say? I'll be super frustrated. Like that'll be annoying. So what I tell them is, in order to avoid that, one of the reasons why I'm at Keller Williams is because we have the largest agent count in the county. And I've never had a situation where I've had a client that wanted to see a house that I wasn't available for, that I couldn't get them to see, because I have agents that I can reach out to that are more than willing to go and show the whole house for me. That way, if I'm ever out of town, or if I'm ever sick, or if I'm just too busy, I already have prior commitments, then you'll still be able to see the house when you need to. So that gives them confidence that even if I'm out of town or whatever, they'll see it. Okay, so that's the sections about me. There's about 4 slides I have on that. And then I go into the market. So here's where we'll really start the role play. So what have you heard about interest rates? You want to be my buyer?
I'll be your buyer.
You'll be my buyer. Okay, then you can all chime in, but we'll do the role play. Yeah, they have been high. What's interesting is historically, do you know what the average interest rate is for the past 40 years? 7%. So we're actually below average right now. Now we feel like they're high because most recently they had been lower for quite a while, but 7% has been the national average for 40 years. So we're at about 6 right now, and they've been going down. Now, one thing that's important to note about interest rates is, let's say that you buy a house at an interest rate and then interest rates drop later on. Is there anything you can do to take advantage of those interest rates? Exactly. You can refinance. So the further interest rates go down, do you think there will be more people interested in buying homes or less? More, right? So here's what could happen if interest rates keep going down, more people come to the market, prices start to go up, you have to compete with a lot more people. And so right now, what buyers are finding successful is getting into a home that, of course, you need to be able to afford it, with the hopes that you can refinance when rates do come down. And how many people do you have to compete with to get a refinance? Nobody. You've already got your house, you've already got it for a good price. And although you may pay a little bit more because of the interest rates for a little while, at some point when rates come down, you can refinance and you'll be able to take advantage of those savings without having to compete with anybody for it. And that's why a lot of buyers are still buying today, even though rates have been higher than what we're used to. Now, and as a quick side note, I'm kind of going through each one of these as if every single one of these things was new to you. But again, for some people, if they're already familiar with some of this stuff, I kind of glance over it a little bit so we don't spend a lot of time. So with home prices, what do you notice about this chart? This is the median sold price in Utah County of a single family home over the past 20 years. What do you notice about this chart? Overall, it's going up, right? Are there times where it goes down? Yeah. So let's say at the height of the market in 2007, you bought a home for $253,000. The average home in Utah County costs $253,000. And let's say fast forwarding a few years in 2011, you decide to sell that home. Did you lose money? If you sold the home, you probably did.
What was the,
If you bought it for $253,000 and then you sold it down at $190,000, you probably did lose money. Now let's say that you bought a home in 2007 for $253,000 and you still have that home today. Did you lose money? No. Were there times that your home was less valuable than it is today? Absolutely. But the point about real estate is, if you can, I always encourage people to play the long game. There are times, like, for example, and I share this example, I had a brother who just happened to buy a townhome in 2020, toward the end of 2020. And a year later, he sold that townhome for almost $100,000 more than what he bought it for. So $100,000 in 1 year. Is that possible? Yes. Does that happen often? Absolutely not. But it could happen. Or within a 2 or 3 year period, there are times where that happens, where your home value does go up. But historically, the average increase of home value per year is, anybody know? About 4% per year. So that's what I would encourage you, is to play the long game and have a plan for a long time. And if it so happens that you're able to make some money off of it quicker, then great. That's awesome. But you just need to know that over time that you will make that money. And so it doesn't really matter, because we can't predict the future. The truth is, the sooner you buy a property, the better off you'll be. There's a term that we say here, it's don't wait to buy real estate and wait and just kind of see what happens. Because over time, your home value will go up, although there may be times where it's a little bit down. So before you go to sell your house, give me a call. This is just a plug for me to let them know that, hey, I'm going to be in this for the long time. Like, I'm not just your agent for this one house. I want to be your agent all the time. Before you go to sell your house in the future, or if you're thinking about refinancing, or if you're just curious about what your home value is, let me know. We'll revisit this chart. We'll see where the market's at. I'll do a CMA for you, kind of let you know where your home value is at, and then you can make your decision of what you'd like to do based off of that information. And I say, would that be helpful? And they say yes. So great. All right. Oh, and then the other thing that often I'll say is, can you see how it would be easy for somebody that owns a home? It'll be easier for them to build up a down payment for their next home and pay 20% down or 50% down if they own a home versus if you don't. Because there's the other thing. A lot of people have the misconception that you have to have 20% in order to pay a home. And here's the question I ask. How long would it, so let's just say it's a $500,000 home. 20% is $100,000. How long would it take you in your current income to save up $100,000. For most people, I guarantee you, they're going to say, well, probably 3 to 5 years or more, right? With real estate, most people earn that amount in a much faster time. And that's why owning a home, the sooner you can own a home, the better off you'll be for the next place. Some people think, well, I'm not going to buy a home until it's my forever home. But those days have come and gone for most people. For most of us, you kind of use them as a stepping stone. Even if you don't absolutely love the home that you're buying, just getting into a home can be used as a stepping stone to get you to the next one. Because as the market improves and as the market goes up, your home value will also go up. And then you can use that equity difference to pay for the next home down payment. So the message that I want them to know at this point is the truth. The sooner you can afford to buy a home, the sooner you do it, the better off you'll be.
When I bought my first home back in 2002.
Mhm.
I bought it, a 3-bedroom home for $142,000.
Yeah.
And I like to tell the story of like, I had to come up with FHA down payment, which was like
3.5%.
3% plus a half.
Yeah.
And so I always say like, that cost me $5,000 to get 150, because it doubled.
Yeah.
It doubled over, so.
You're using leverage. You're
it's-
using the bank's money.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great investment. Okay, then I want to talk to them about the buying process. So the first step is the pre-approval process. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the home search, then we'll talk about offers and negotiations, and then closing and moving. So I show them this. This is kind of a purchase timeline. I tell them the orange ones are for you as the buyer. These are things that you'll be primarily responsible for. However, my team will be reminding you of these things as we go. So don't feel like you have to remember all this. And then the blue stuff is things that my team or I will personally take care of for you, but just knowing that this happens. So we're at the initial consultation right now. And then the next step is to meet with a lender, if they haven't done so already, to get the pre-approval letter. I also, at the same time, will be setting up on listing alerts, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then it kind of goes from there. We start seeing homes, we write offers. Once we get an offer accepted, we kind of go like this. This is just a glance. I don't spend a lot of time on this, but I let them see it later on their own time. But number one is the pre-approval letter. To me, the pre-approval letter is your ticket to go out and see homes. Then I share this example, which is a true story in my own poor experience. I told you, sometimes you learn from your own experience. Hopefully more often you're learning from the experience of others, but this is one that I learned from my own experience. I had a cousin who, at the earliest, one of my first clients, wanted to go see homes. She owned her own business. Her husband owned his own business. They seemed to be doing really well. They wanted to go see some homes in Draper for $650,000. This was going to be their first home. I was like, yeah, absolutely. They were very picky. They wanted to see, we ended up seeing about 20 different homes over the course of a couple of weeks. And for me, driving from Orem at the time, I mean, it was a lot of time that we spent. They finally found the home that they wanted. So I said, okay, great. Now go talk to your lender. They went and talked to your lender, and any guesses on what happened? They didn't qualify. Because of how they had structured their taxes, they were showing essentially no income. They had losses on their businesses. And so even though they were making money, their taxes showed a different story. And what do lenders want to see? They want to see your taxes. And so they said, nope, you guys can't buy a house, actually. And actually, that's not quite true. They said, you don't qualify for this amount. You qualify for like $450,000. So now we went and saw a handful of homes for $450,000. How do you feel like they felt about every single home we saw? They hated it. And you know what ended up happening? They ended up not buying a house for 2.5 years. And this just happened to be between 2018 to 2020, the middle of 2020, when homes skyrocketed. So now the homes they were seeing at $450,000 were almost the same price as the homes that they had been seeing at $650,000, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. So the prices had increased to the point where it was a bad experience. And so that taught me a very valuable lesson, because A, it saves me a ton of time if they get a pre-approval letter first. B, it saves them a ton of time. Because do you think they were happy about all the hours they had spent looking at homes? Probably not. And then C, it helps them know that the homes that we're seeing, they can go in with confidence that they can qualify for them. They can get those homes. I would much rather, I tend to think that if we had gotten a pre-approval letter first and only seen $450,000 homes, I think we probably would have found one that they would have been comfortable enough with, kind of like I said, as a stepping stone to get them to the next house sooner. So if they don't already have a pre-approval letter, my message to them is that's your next job, is to get a pre-approval letter. So then I ask them, do you know anybody in the mortgage business? Most people will say no, and then say, do you mind if I give you a couple recommendations of people that I've trusted and worked with? Absolutely great. I'll put them in touch. If they say, yes, I do know of somebody, I don't like to just say, okay, great, because there are great lenders, just like agents, and there are some not so great lenders. And I've had a few experiences with some not so great lenders that ultimately either made the sale really hard, made it frustrating, or in one case, particularly, completely butchered the sale and they couldn't buy, all because the lender was just inexperienced and not using a mentor or somebody that was helping them. So if they say that they have one already, I ask them, and how do you know them? Sometimes, well, it's a friend. Okay, great. And do you know anybody that's closed homes with them? I want to ask a couple more questions. And then I say, I always recommend getting a second opinion. Do you mind if I put you in touch with a lender that I trust? I'm always trying to build my lenders, not because, well, yeah, for lots of reasons, but one of them is because I genuinely feel like my trusted lender is going to, like, I know I can trust them, right? So if they say that they don't qualify, I know they don't. If they say that they do, then I know they do. So anyway, we talk about that. Okay, then I talk about the home search and I ask them, how many different home search websites are there online? Did you know there are over 950 different websites to search for homes in Utah? Most of them have virtually all the same homes. So what homes, I ask them, what sites have you used? Most people will say what? Zillow, number one. Some of them will say Redfin, some of them Realtor, some of them Homey. I ask them there's only one website that is regulated in all of Utah. Meaning if information is not accurate there, someone's going to get in trouble. What website is that? Yeah, utahrealestate.com. Yeah, but it's not. Realtor.com is its own thing. And so I encourage them to use utahrealestate.com, and I talk about the reasons why, as an agent, when I'm listing a home, it's put on the MLS, which is utahrealestate.com. And from there, it gets broadcast to all the other websites. So in other words, some websites may take a day or two to update that. So you don't know with confidence that some of these other websites have the homes up to date. Sometimes because they have different intentions. And again, for some people, I'll dive a little bit deeper into it, and some people I won't. But I'll explain, there are for-profit websites like Zillow, Realtor.com. They're in it to try and earn money. And their money comes from agents like me who pay them to get your information. And so the more attractive they can make their website, the more money they can make. But their intention is not to help you find the right house for you. So utahrealestate.com is the best one. And here's the other reason why, and that is because I can set you up on instant alerts, on listing alerts that I put in one time what your search criteria is, and the moment it hits the market, it gets straight to your email. So you have first chance of seeing that home and figuring out if it's the right home for you. If you like the area, if you like the price, you like the photos, then let's schedule a time to go and see it. Go ahead.
So Keller Williams also has like your own app.
Yes.
Are you able to use trusted website to your app so they can download it and we can compare?
You can, and really the benefit to an agent, from what I understand about using something like that, is that the moment that they click on a home, it notifies you, so you can be more up to date. I'm totally fine with that. And I guess I would just tailor the conversation a little bit differently if I were to do that. I've found for me personally that I just use utahrealestate.com. When they favorite a property, I get notified. But I just feel like I talk about how important it is for them to know quickly, because some of the popular homes, they still are under contract within a few days. And if it's my client, I want them to have that chance of getting it. So that's why I say the best chance we have of getting a home, of not missing out on a home, is if we go and see it within the first day or two of it being on the market. So I just have them make sure that they're checking their email and to notify me as soon as they find a home that they like, and we'll go schedule it and see it. I also mentioned to pay close attention to listings with dark and untidy photos. I've had multiple experiences where a client of mine has wanted to go see a home that the pictures were terrible. And I'm not joking. This one in particular that's coming to mind was a townhome that they ended up getting for $10,000 less than the most recent townhome sold in that neighborhood of the same kind. $10,000. And the reason why was because the photos that were used were like, I don't know who was in charge, but the photo, like the house was a mess. There was literally underwear on the floor in the photos, like the dirty dishes in this, like the house was not ready to sell, but they took pictures anyway. The angles were terrible. The pictures were dark. Most buyers say what to that? After they're seeing so many good photos and good homes, they see the one that's terrible. What do they think? I'm not going to go see that one. So they discount it. And anytime you reduce the number of people interested in the home, you have a better chance of not only getting it, but also getting it for a better price. So I mention that to my clients because I want them to kind of be aware of that. And again, to help them know that like, I have your best interest at heart. I want you to get a good deal on a home, not just get a home. And so this is one way we can do that.
An agent doesn't know, but they also don't have.
That's probably true. Yeah, I bet you're right.
So that tells you that the current home is not taking very
Yeah.
good care of the house.
It could, and that's exactly right. And so that's why if you're able to get a home like that at a discount, it could be totally worth it. Because in their case, what ended up happening is they got it for $10,000 less. They replaced carpet and did paint, and with that, about $3,000 worth of money, it was just as good as any other one. And so they still were able to get it for a better deal. And who doesn't like a home with brand new carpet? So for them, it was better too. Yeah. Then I also mentioned that your preferences are likely to change as you start to see homes and as you start to physically go to them. So please keep me updated so that I can update this search criteria that we have for you to make sure you're getting the right homes. I also mentioned I'm going to expand it just a little bit. I'm going to send you homes that are just outside of the price range you told me and outside of the areas you told me. And I asked them, I want to talk about this because I don't want them to just, if they're getting these homes that are not exactly what they told me without having this conversation, do they think I was listening well to them? No. But I do this on purpose and I tell them this because I want them to know there are times where that you find the perfect home that's just outside of what we were thinking we were looking for. I don't want you to miss out on that. Or even though the price may be higher, there's a good chance that if it's on the market for a little while, we can get it at a lower price and get it within your price range. And I would hate for you to miss out on the perfect home just because it's $1,000 more than the limit that we had set. So I usually expand those just a little bit. Are you okay with that? And they say yes. That way, when they get homes that are outside their area or outside what they told me, they know why, and it's on purpose. Then I talk about some of the things that I do. These are some things that I do to try and help their experience be better as a buyer. I talk about my KRE Power Buyer Checklist, which is a checklist that I put together of ways that they can make their offer stand out against competition. It's 14 different things that they can do, and we can pick and choose which ones of them that we'd like to do if we find a home that does have multiple people that are interested. And so I let them know this ahead of time. I have this in their folder, but I don't talk about what those things are yet because it's going to depend on the type of home. And then I talk about, we will help you with the home inspection. We'll help coordinate that and make sure that after you're under contract with the home, you're able to, we can negotiate potentially depending on the condition of the home. And then I talk about the appraisal, make sure they understand that as well.
Certain things that they pay, right?
Yep. And I'll probably make mention of that
But you just.
as well.
Yep.
Yep, we'll help coordinate those, but those will be things that they'll be paying for. It's good question. This is what I call my lightened load kit. I tell them that I'll be giving them 25 moving boxes. I give them tape. I'll give them a $100 gift card for a moving truck. I know some people have moving trucks on their teams that they allow them to use. That's great. For me, I just find it to be so much easier to just give $100 because then I have zero maintenance, zero storage. I don't have to deal with it, and they can get the right truck for them. And then I tell them I also will be giving you a gift card for pizza so that you can incentivize your neighbors and friends to come and help you move. So just as something little extra that kind of goes a long way. I also tell them have you guys heard of BNI? So there's different networking groups out there. I created my own last year called Propel. These are some of the groups that are in my networking group. I like to tell them these are some local professionals in different home services and other services that are around here that I know and trust. if you have any needs of your home, if you need painters or if you need a plumber or anything like that, let me know and I'll send you someone I can trust. This does two things for me as an agent. Number one, it does help me provide another level of service to them because I'm not just helping them buy a house, but I'm helping them make that house the right fit for them if it does need some work on it by sending them a trusted professional, especially if they're coming from out of state or if they're not familiar with the area. They may not know anybody in that space. The other thing it does for them is it reminds them that I want to be the guy that they call for anything home related. Even if it's not, hey, I'm ready to buy my house or buy a house or sell my house. I want them to say, hey, my plumbing isn't working right. Do you have a guy? Why do you think that's helpful for me as an agent? Keeps on providing value, right? And it keeps me top of mind. Anything home related, oh, I got to call Jordan. I got to call Jordan. He knows the guy. And I have to be careful about these because if I send him a guy that sucks, super expensive or does a terrible job, is that going to speak well of me? Absolutely not. So, yep, either I've worked with or clients of mine have worked with in the past. This is one phone call that you guys can make as part of lead generation is to call the people that you know. And instead of saying, hey, I just want to let you know I got my license. Are you ready to buy a home? Terrible phone call. I don't recommend it. What I would rather you do, or what I would encourage you to do is to say, hey, I just got my real estate license. I'm trying to build up my professional network. I'm looking for, and you can either be very specific and say a plumber, or I'm looking for home service professionals that have done a really good job. Have you had any work done on your home? And they can tell you, oh yeah, we had somebody come and do our roof last year. Oh, and how did that go? Did you like them? Would you recommend them? Yeah, they were great. Okay, awesome. Would you mind if I got their number and I give them a call and said that you referred them to me? I feel like that shows them that you care. Again, you're trying to build a professional network. It allows you to say, hey, I'm building my network. Then they can start thinking of you more often, even if you're brand new.
And then you call these people.
And then I call them, yeah. And I have a conversation. Hey, so-and-so said that you did a really good job for them. Thank you for taking good care of them. They're a good friend of mine. I would love to keep you in my network. And then maybe ask certain questions about how they go about their business and then just write their name down and have your own little chart that you can share with your clients as they have needs or that you can refer back to when they call you. That's why I may have some of these on here, but nobody's going to go looking for this paper in a year from now when they're like, oh, I need a plumber. Where's that paper? What are they going to do? Hopefully they're going to call me, right? And so because some of these guys, to be honest, will be replaced over time as they either don't do well or they're just out of the business or whatever. So yeah, I want them to just keep me top of mind by giving me a call. Then I have a couple of different programs that I've do that I've never had to use this one. It's called the Love It or Leave It program. This is something that you guys will have to decide if you're willing to do something like this. Basically, the Love It or Leave It program is, and I need to make these words way shorter because this is too long to read, but it's where if I tell them I'm committed to helping you get the right home for you. I'm not just trying to get you into a house. I'm trying to get you into the right house. And so my promise to you is if you get into a house, if you buy a house with me and within the first year you decide it's not the right fit and you want to sell it, I will sell it for free. Meaning I'm not going to charge them a listing commission. They'll have to probably be paying a buyer's agent commission at some point. There's other fees associated with that. And the truth is most people don't earn enough equity within 1 year to cover the costs associated with selling that it just doesn't make sense for them to do that unless it really, really is bad. And if that's the case, then so be it. I've never had to do it and I'm willing to. And if I suddenly have multiple people doing that, then I may have to change this promise. But this is a genuine promise that I'm making them that like, I want them to know that I want to get them in the right house. I think it's just adding that extra step and emphasizing that a little bit more, that I'm not just trying to sell you a car that's broken, you know? Couple other things that I have on there. Then I have my satisfaction guarantee. I'll talk to them about the buyer broker. And I know we're going past time, but I hope you guys are okay with this. Okay. So this is when I bring up the buyer broker agreement, because the last thing that I'm going to do, remember my goal at the beginning of this meeting is to have them sign what? Buyer broker agreement. This is where I bring that up. And I say, the state of Utah, because this is true, requires us to have an agreement that says that we're working together. And that needs to be signed before we go out and see houses. Now, here's what I tell them. I say, because of my relationship over transaction mentality, I don't want you to be working with me in a month from now, all because you signed this piece of paper that said we'd work together if I haven't been answering my phones or I haven't been, living up to everything we just talked about. So if you feel like there's something that I'm not doing to uphold everything that we've just talked about, I don't want you to feel tied to me just because you signed a paper that said you would. I want you to work with me because you feel like I'm your best option. And so this is my satisfaction guarantee that says, if for whatever reason you feel like I'm just not, I would love to see if there's a way we can fix it. But if ultimately there's not a way to fix it, then I'm willing to rip that up. And this is my guarantee. Once again, I've never had anybody actually say that. There's been times where people just haven't bought or they haven't done anything and they haven't progressed and maybe they end up going somewhere else. But I've never had anybody actually sign this and send it back,
Doesn't the buyer broker agreement have like a time frame?
It does. Yep.
Okay, so I mean, because like my buddy, I have a buddy in Iowa, real estate agent, and when this came up, because this is a pretty recent change, like last year, right?
Year and a half. Yeah.
Year and a half.
Yep.
So like he said, like Roy, he has like basically the same guarantee, but he's like, yeah, and just so you know, like even without this, like you can just let it time out, and that's
Yeah.
okay,
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
like,
There's a time.
make sure that
Mhm.
they can get out of it. It's not like a.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
like that.
Yeah. So I just bring that up, and then that's when I pull out the buyer broker agreement.
You haven't
Uh-huh.
signed this? Is this like?
I don't have, no, this is like, if they want to cancel with me, they sign this paper and send it back. That's the idea. They don't have to do anything here. Yeah, it's just a slide for me to explain that.
Justin Udy does that same.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I don't want to work with people that don't want to work.
Yeah.
So get into this and you don't like it, but he needs to just let me know.
And I know that can sound crazy, but guys, trust me when I tell you this.
That builds trust.
If you don't feel like you're a good fit for them, or if you don't feel like they're a good fit for you, don't work with them. It's not worth it. I've had multiple experiences where I've had some really, because what happens, you guys know the 80-20 rule. 80% of your time is going to be dedicated to 20% of your income, essentially, or to the people. There's a lot of different ways you can apply this rule, but I found this to be true here too, that 20% of my time is dedicated to 80% of my business. So if I'm finding somebody that's going to be taking up a ton of my time, 80% of my time, for sometimes not even 20, sometimes it's zero. I've had multiple situations where I've not earned anything from certain clients that just took a lot. And you can just feel it in different ways. If they're just jerks right from the start, they're not going to change in a week from now when they're writing an offer. And you're going to have to be representing somebody that's going to be, a jerk to the sellers. And it's not a good situation. So
Say that.
I usually say that actually in my phone call before I meet with them, to say that, hey, I want to see if we're a good fit for each other. I want them to know that this is as much me seeing if I want to work with them, which 99% of the people I'm going to want to, right? There's going to be very few that I'm going to say, I really don't want to work with this person. But I do want them to feel like, it is a two-way street and we're going to be working together. I don't want you to feel like you're just hiring me and then there's no actual trust there or relationship there. Like if they don't trust you and you can feel that, I don't recommend working with them. They have to be able to trust you, at least to some extent. Because I've had people, not to get too into details, but like I've had people that no matter what I would say, they would not believe it. And they would totally, no, market doesn't work. Okay, this is what happened. One of the things that they would say is their home wasn't selling, but they had listed it for higher than what I had recommended by a lot. And they were saying, well, we're not getting showings. And I'm like, well, yeah, we listed it way too high. Let's reduce the price. And they're like, well, no, I think we need to up the price because that will show that it's worth more. And we're going to get more traction that way. And I'm like, guys, that's not how this works. So anyway, those are, yeah, I ended up. And I said, after a while, like I tried to save it, tried to help them. After a while, after 4 or 5 months of trying to work with them, I was just like, you know what? I can't do this again. I'm not working with you guys. You're totally unreasonable, and it takes a lot of my time.
I had some.
That house still hasn't sold. They went with another agent, still hasn't sold.
I had something happen like that. It's like I took a friend's listing and I said, hey, this is what I think will sell for. It was like 150. He said, no, I want to list it for 170.
Yeah.
And then we ended up canceling the relationship because he would never bring it down. Hired somebody else within like 6 weeks, it finally sold, but because he had to drop the prices, so what did you sell it for? 50, but what did I tell you? It was like-
Exactly. Yeah,
I was right, but I didn't. Yeah.
I know, that is annoying. And those are gonna happen.
Losing.
And as a side note, especially if you guys are gonna be working with friends and family, it's gonna happen where somebody's not gonna work with you and it's gonna hurt for a little bit, but you just move on and you realize, you know what? At the end of the day, I don't need 1,000 people to decide to work with me. I just need 10 this year or whatever your goal is. I need 20, and if it's not that person, well, the quicker you can brush that off, the better, because it's gonna happen. You're gonna have some great experiences too, working with friends and family, but you're all gonna have some crappy ones. So try and brush that off as quick as you can.
So I asked Jordan this, and he said like the average.
Cameron, you mean?
Yeah,
I'm Jordan.
you're Jordan, my bad.
No, you're good.
But I asked Cameron this, and he said that the average agent sells about 4 houses a year. Would you say like if you're really going for it, you can do way more than that?
Oh yeah.
Easy.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
100%.
cool.
Does he mean in the first year?
About that. He just said just average, but he's like, don't be average. But I'm
Well-
assuming that's just because a lot of agents are like.
Yeah, there's a lot of part-time agents. And in the market that we've been in the past couple of years, if you're not really working towards it and you're really, really working at it, you're not going to get that. I don't know if this is true, but if it's not exactly the lowest, it's among the lowest. I believe we had the lowest number of transactions in Utah County last year than we've had in 30 years. So like the number of opportunities that were available last year were very low. And the agents that were getting those were the ones that were full-time, been doing this for a while. They have a lot of trust. I even had a client recently. I helped them sell a house and buy another one about 5 years ago. They're still living there. Last year, she was interested in buying a house, but she developed another relationship with somebody that lives in her neighborhood of an agent, and she became really good friends with that person. She ended up wanting to work with that person. However, she said that she ended up not working with that person because they jumped out of the business because it was too hard. And she ended up calling me and she told me this whole thing, and I was appreciative that she was honest with me, but she's like, I can tell that you're good at what you do because you're still in the business. A lot of realtors I know have jumped out. And I hope that gives you guys encouragement, not discouragement, because not every year is going to be like last year. There will be years where there's going to be a lot to go around. And again, you don't need 1,000 deals to make your income goals. Like you only need a handful, So that 4 average it includes all the part-time agents, all the agents that have technically stopped being an agent, but they're still licensed because their license hasn't expired. So
Yeah, that's kind of what I think.
those numbers are a little skewed in that way.
If you're going at that, what's realistic enough to do it?
Man, that's a hard one to answer, but I
Well, just in general, and how many years would it take you to get to that,
it doesn't have to take too long. I mean, I guess I can't speak for everyone. I can just tell you what my experience was. I told you already that my first 6 months I had 1 transaction. If I counted at my 6-month mark and every year thereafter, I think that first year I ended up doing like 20, and then it was some really good years. It was like 30, 34, and then I dropped down to like 20 over the past couple of years. Now I've averaged 25 past 2 years. So
Is it realistic? I could go with selling 8 houses.
yeah,
Like,
I think it's a great goal. I think it's totally realistic. And there's different philosophies out there. I do like the ones of setting a goal and then doubling the amount of work that it takes to get that goal. I like that philosophy because there's too much unforeseen that can happen. But if you're doubling the work for that amount, I think you'll be just fine. So, and Keller Williams has so many good resources for you guys. Depending on the team, if you end up joining a team, they can provide opportunities for you, or if nothing else, just speed up your learning curve. There's ways to make it happen, but ultimately it does come down to you,
What is the number one activity that you focus on?
lead generation.
Yes, and which avenue in that lead generation you feel?
Depends on what your goals are, but I would encourage you to develop not more than 3 different legs of lead generation. So for example, for me, one of my legs is SOI, which is kind of a big leg. That's friends and family. But I figure out what am I doing today to get business in SOI? And every day I have something different that I do. Another leg, farming is honestly, depending on where you live. Have you guys heard of farming? So I don't know if it's by mistake, but like I didn't do this on purpose, but at the beginning of my career, I lived in a townhome community that was like you bought the townhomes, they weren't rented. And I developed relationships with my neighbors. And eventually, people don't generally live in townhomes for more than a few years. And so there became a lot of opportunities for me to sell, but I was actively doing things in my community to kind of get my name out there. And again, my thing is like, I don't want to be knocking on or calling people all the time and be like, hey, you ready to buy or sell yet? I would much rather give them a gentle reminder. Hey, I'm in the business. When you're ready, let me know. And I do that by events. I do that by inviting all of my I did neighborhood events where we would like rent some blow up bounce houses and stuff. And we did like a yearly carnival type thing. And I got some different people in my community involved with that. And so that was just a way to kind of get my name out there. Anytime I would sell a home in that neighborhood, I would make sure to deliver open house flyers and then deliver just sold flyers so that they would see that like I didn't just list the home, that it sold and it sold quickly and for how much. And so just farming is one of the best tools that you can use depending on, it doesn't have to be where you live. It can be just a specific geographic location and you find out. I would say townhomes is great because it has high turnover. And whereas if you try and farm a single family community of $1 million homes, like chances are not very many of them are going to move anytime soon. And so with townhomes, it's like people are going to be moving all the time. And so you have more opportunities there. And guess what? When they're selling their townhome, they're buying another home. That's why. And it's going to be for a higher price. And then you can keep that relationship for more.
Too far enough out there.
Not if they're not purchased. So if they're condos that are like sold and homeowners, then yeah, I would think that's totally fine. But if they're just apartments, like you can advertise to them if you're doing like first time home buyer classes or things like that. But yeah, I would just say every day you should be doing at least 1 or 2 hours. I know some people will say more, but the truth is most people don't do more than an hour or two of lead generation a day. They just don't, even the successful agents. But if you're dedicated and you're consistent and you actually do 1 to 2 hours of genuine lead generation a day, you will find success. To me, there's no question about it.
So when you say 1 or 2 hours, like what do you do?
Conversation. So the way I track my numbers is my very first thing that I track is number of real estate conversations. That can be through text. Sometimes I would count it if it's an email, but most of the time it's a phone call or an in-person conversation. Essentially, I count a conversation as if by the end of that conversation, they either learn or they're reminded that I'm in the business of real estate and that they can confidently say that like they know that. To me, that's a real estate conversation. Maybe we talk about the market. Maybe we talk about what their home is or their goals. And again, what I'm looking for in that conversation is this person a good opportunity to make an appointment? Are they looking to buy or sell yet? Would it be helpful for them if we sat down and actually had a consultation like this? That's what I'm looking for in those conversations. So number one is like track conversations. If you just track conversations, because you can say 2 hours of lead gen. I don't like saying the times because that could be calling 100 people that never answered. Is that really lead generation? Like to me, that's not. But if you have a conversation with somebody about real estate and you have an opportunity there, that's what actually counts. So the more conversations you can have about real estate, the better, the more consultations you'll have. It's like it's the sales funnel. To me, those are the numbers I track. Conversations leads to number of appointments, which leads to number of signed people that are willing to work with me, which leads to under contracts, which leads to closings. So that's, to me, that's how the funnel works. There's other people that track different things. You can track 1,000 different things if you wanted to, but to me, that's the most simplified version that keeps me focused on what it actually matters, and that is conversations. No.
I wish there was like a little conversation guideline. How do you start out? Like that's the biggest thing to start with. I want to call him, but I also got my sale director that's hungry for it.
Yeah. So that's why the vendor call is the most, to me, the easiest, where you can just call them and say, hey, I'm building my network of professionals, wanted to know who you know that may be a good fit for that. Or that's one. And I would track every person I know. Did I have that call with them already? Yes or no? And on command, you can do that. You can make it a separate checklist item, like in their, I can't remember exactly what it is, but you can go into settings into their contacts and you can add different things to each contact. And one of them I have is vendor. And that means, did I have the vendor call with them? And it's a checkbox. So after I have that conversation with somebody, I check that box. So then because I don't want to call them in 2 months and be like, hey, I just got my license. I'm looking for a vendor. Like, yeah, you just called me 2 months ago. So I want to make sure I track that. The other one that I do is, because I want to come from a place of value. I'm the same way as you. I do a lot of events and giveaways, and that can be a really good way to do it. And it can be inexpensive. It depends on what you do.
Like,
Yeah, I do, or through my monthly email. But I would do a lot of like first time home buyers classes. I did like 3 my first year, like after that 6 months. Yep. I would host them myself, and I would just say, hey, who do you know that may be looking to buy a home in the next year or two? If they don't own a home, then I would say, I would like to invite you. And who else do you know? But if they do own a home, let's say they've already lived in their home for a long time, I can say, who do you know that may be interested in buying a home in the next couple of years that I could invite to this class? Yeah, right here. Yeah, you can schedule this room for free, and block it off. So then if you do more elaborate client appreciation events, Keller Williams we put on like the Splash Summit one every year that you guys can participate in. And the Jakers Fall Festival. And then I do other ones throughout the year. So that way I have things that I have a purpose for calling them that is not saying, are you ready to buy or sell yet? But it still gets that message across. Because when you say, who do you know that may be looking to buy or sell? If they're interested in buying or selling, they'll say, well, I am. Oh, that's awesome. So that's how I do my conversations. So, and okay. So we didn't talk about the buyer broker agreement much. When I go over this, you put your name here. You put their name there. And then this is where the date is. Have you guys been taught how to fill this out? Okay. So this is where the date is. I usually do, it depends on the client. If it's somebody that's like hungry and I can tell that they're ready to buy soon, I usually just do a 6-month period. If it's somebody that's like kind of interested, but I don't feel like they're super motivated, I'll put it usually for a year. You can do whatever you want, whatever you can agree on. And then if I know they're only interested in Utah County, I just do that. Or a lot of times I'll do Utah and Salt Lake counties, or Nebo if they're going down to Nephi, that kind of thing. So you can put that, or you can do a specific address.
they have a problem.
If they have one property they want to see, you can delete this. And you can show that property. That way, this just says if they buy that house, you're due a commission, not if they buy any house, just that one. Whereas I only use this in a very rare situation where if I don't know the person and they don't know me, but they want to see this particular house, then I'll do something like that. But otherwise, at the end of my appointment, this is what I really want, is I want them to know that if they buy any house, that I'm their agent. Because I tell them it helps protect me as much as it helps protect you. This agreement says that we're working together. I don't know that this really happens, but like something easy to say is that, like, let's say that you worked with a couple different agents and then you ended up buying a house and both agents say, hey, I'm due a commission, and the other one says, I'm due a commission. Like, there's only going to be one commission. So it just helps avoid any of that. Then you want to make sure, have you signed one of these already with anybody else? And if so, then you got to put their name there.
Oh, so they can sign multiples?
They're not supposed to, but
This just.
but this is for the following property, sorry. So in other words, maybe they signed one like this for one particular property, but now they're signing this one with you, like they actually want to work with you. They're not going to be buying that house. Like technically you should put the address of that one that you're excluded from here. But
I see.
I haven't had that. It may come up. But here's the brokerage fee. Okay, so here's how I ask it. I say, are you guys familiar with how real estate commissions work? Most people are going to either say no, or they're going to be like, kind of, not really. It's fine. And I tell them, okay, there's two separate conversations. Real quick, I'm going to tell you guys as agents, who is responsible for your buyer broker fee ultimately? The buyer, right? Which means that if you don't get paid by the seller, they're going to have to be paying you. Is that true? Yes. How many times has that happened to me? 0. Now, that may change as the market shifts, where if there are a lot of buyers, there's a lot of offers on each home, the seller may end up choosing one that does not require them to pay a buyer agent commission. And maybe you're going to get your commission from the buyer directly. That may happen, and at some point it probably will. But today's market is not like that. So here's how I have the conversation with them. I say, this basically just says, if you buy a house, then our brokerages do a 3% commission. I have been successful at getting the seller to pay that commission 100% of the time. If in a situation where the seller says, I am not willing to pay that, I will let you know before we even write the offer. That way we can make a decision on what to do there.
That can last, yeah.
Well, so because how it works is on the offer in there, it says in section 4, what am I asking as a commission? So I'm going to be putting something there. I'm not going to put 0. Usually I put 3 or 2.5, or depending on how I need to be competitive. If there's 5 other offers, I may put 2.5 or maybe even 2. But if I know that like there's no other offers, then why not put 3? So that's when I'm asking the seller for a commission. If they come back with a counteroffer and say, no, we're not willing to pay a commission, that's when we'll talk to my seller. It just becomes a part of the puzzle of negotiation. So
Yeah, they offer out. I will.
Yeah.
To you, last buyer, the other.
Every agent gets to decide that. For me personally, I've never done that. I've never had a buyer pay $1 for me. I'm not saying that's the only right way to go. There may be situations where maybe you felt like you've done a ton of work for this buyer. The seller's only willing to pay 1%. You've got to get at least another percent or something from your buyer. Like that totally could happen. And I'm not like completely against it. It's just, I haven't had a situation really that required me to do that. So yeah, so at this point I just put 3 and I just tell them my past. I can't promise that I'm not going to charge them, but I can tell them I never have charged anyone yet. And if for some reason I will need to, you will know before as part of our offer. Like it's not going to be a surprise to you at the closing table and be like, oh, you got to also pay an extra 5,000 here. Like they're going to know that going into it. So it's not going to be a surprise. But this just says I highly encourage you guys to never put anything less than 3% here. Any guesses why?
Because you gotta
Yeah, both of those are true. The real reason is because you cannot ask for more than what is on here at the time of an offer. So if you put 2.5 here and you write an offer for your clients, you cannot put more than 2.5 there. Even if the seller's willing to pay you 3%, you can't put it there. So I always just put 3% here, no matter what. And then because this may come up, they're like, well, what if they just give you 2.5? Are you going to come after me for the extra 0.5%? And I just say no. Like we just take what they give us at that point. But again, that's up to you guys. If you want to say, yeah, we'll let you know, and then you come up with the 0.5%, and we'll be good. So it depends on how you want to go about it. But protection period, I always just put 6 months. I've never had to use this. This essentially just says if we see a home together and then our agreement expires, and then you go back to that home after and say, hey, I want to buy this house, within a 6-month period, we're still protected. We'd still be due a commission on that house because we saw it together. Right. I talked to them about, well, I don't even talk about limited agent because I guess it could happen. If I'm the listing agent on a home that they want to buy, I would have them go in as unrepresented. That's how our brokerage does it. I don't really bring that up here because it's so rare that that happens, that if it does happen, I'll just talk to them about that when it actually does. If they see a house that I am selling and they want that house, then we'll talk. But it's just rare for that to happen. Professional advice, I remind them that I am a realtor, but I am not a loan officer. I'm not a tax professional. So I encourage you to seek professional advice where it applies. If there's a disagreement between us, we may, at the option of the parties, go to mediation. We're not required to. I always put may. And that the losing party pays for the winning party's fees. This is the entire agreement, equal housing opportunity. I don't know. I don't really go through every detail. Most people don't need to. If they want you to, you can. Electronic transmission, just anything that you sign electronically counts as if it was a wet signature. Due on sale, if you own a home, I don't even know why this is on here. I guess the home of the person they're buying.
How do you structure it's probably.
And then the entire agreement, this is everything. So really the points that matter to people, the points that I actually spend some time on is the date that we're going to be doing this for 6 months or a year, the location, any property you buy within the next 6 months in Utah County, our brokerage would be due a fee of up to 3%. I usually say, well, no, I don't say that. I don't know why I said that just now. Of 3%. If the seller is unwilling to pay our commission, I will let you know at the time of writing an offer and we'll figure it out. But up to now in my career, there have been 0 times where that's happened. So
Do you call the other agent before and talk about commission?
not anymore.
Put it in the.
Used to. Just put it in the offer. Just send it. Yeah. Because they can counter anything. They can counter, we want $5,000 more on the price, and maybe they don't touch the commission part. They could counter, and some of this, every agent's different. Sometimes you'll have these conversations over the phone and you can talk about, well, this is what we'd be willing to do. Sometimes they'll just send it in an addendum and give you a counter offer that way. So yeah, I just put it in the offer, send it. I don't ask them, are they willing to pay? So just be like, this is what our offer is, and we can negotiate from there. And then have you sign it, and then give them a copy. So, so once they sign that, then you can have a tiny moment of celebration because that is a big deal that they signed with you. They have chosen to work with you. What are the chances in the sales world? We're taught that in order to get their signature, the best chance you have of them doing it is when?
Oh, like,
Right
pretty
then.
quick.
Right then and there, right?
Close them right there.
I've had situations, I'm sure you guys will too, where you're tempted to be like, oh, this has been a long appointment. It's been a long time. Like, just like my class is going way over. This can happen in a buyer broker agreement or in a buyer consultation. And you may feel like, you know what, I'll just send it to you later. I'll send it to you later. You can sign it, whatever. That is a temptation sometimes. And I would highly discourage doing that because yeah, your chances of closing that business goes down. And this is a close. Remember, I talked about the mini sales. This is one of those steps along the way to get to that ultimate sale. And the best chance you have of doing that is right here and now. Go ahead.
Like a free buyer's consultation and you know that they are not ready to buy, they won't be like for another 2 years.
Yeah.
Mainly because of finance. You don't sign this, right?
Right. I probably wouldn't in that case. If they for sure can't within a couple of years, then you're right. And I'm glad you brought that up because there are times where you're going to have that. And I had an agent once who I met with somebody, this was to sell a house, but kind of a crazy situation, but I guess it happens. It was somebody in the neighborhood I grew up with was selling their house and they listed it for sale by owner. And I was scared to, but I came up with the courage to go and knock on her door and say, I noticed you're trying to sell your house. Like, wanted to hear how that's going for you, or if there's anything I can do to help. And she invited me in right away. She almost like expected I was coming. I was like, that's weird. Anyway, we had a conversation. She was at the point where she didn't want to do it for sale by owner anymore. She wanted to hire an agent, and she was going to meet with 2 other agents she had already scheduled, and now she was going to meet with me. And one of the agents that had came to visit her, she told me, said that because her house wasn't ready, he wasn't gonna help her. He wasn't gonna list it. He only takes people that are ready to do something this week. And it was gonna take her about a month to get her home actually ready. And I was shocked because I was like, that is not even a long time. Like, that's pretty quick to have a seller say, I want to sell and have it listed within a month. That's pretty quick. I don't know how often this other guy is getting business this week, but whatever. So, that can happen sometimes where they're not ready. Maybe they say in 6 months from now, but guys, time flies. I have people that say, I'm going to be selling my house in 6 months, or I'm going to be ready to buy next year. And in the moment, I'm kind of thinking, okay, that's a long time. But then before I know it, it's time and they're ready to go. So
If it is within a year, you still have the same thing.
sorry, I typically don't. If it's within a year, then I do. Because if nothing else, it gets them to commit to me right then and there. So that if we need to extend this in a year from now, or if we need to sign another one in a year from now, they're more likely to do so because they've already committed to me. They're not looking for another agent at this point.
So instead of putting 6 months.
Yeah, I'd probably put a year. And then I say, as we approach this year, maybe I'll send you an updated one. And I kind of get their commitment beforehand that like, as we approach the year, if we need to extend this, we can totally do that. And they're like, okay, that sounds great. So yeah, it's not a big problem. But one of my mentalities in real estate is I want to be ready when they're ready. Like the more people I can say, how do I phrase this? The more people I can get to raise their hand and say, when I'm ready to buy or sell, I'm going to use you, the better off my business will be. You agree? Right? Like if I have somebody that's like, for sure, I'm not ready to do anything yet, but for sure when I do, I'm going to call you. The more people like that I have, the better. So sometimes people aren't ready right now, and that's okay. But you're the guide to actually help them get to a point where they can buy. And what happens more often than not is people that think they're not ready to buy until a year or two from now are actually ready a lot sooner if we meet together. And it's not because I'm pressuring them to buy. It's because they realize that they are more ready than they thought. Or if we just change this thing about your finances within the next few months, you'll be ready to buy. So between me and the lender, we try and help them get ready as soon as possible. Because I do believe that if you're able to, and if you can afford it, the sooner you buy a home, the better. Like that's just a general principle. There are some situations where maybe it doesn't make sense. Like if they're going to be moving out of state within a year or something, like maybe that's not a good thing. But for the most part, the sooner they're ready, the better. So if I can help them get ready faster, that's going to be better for them and of course for us. So, because then they'll feel like you're really helping them too. And they'll be even that much more tied to you as their agent because you help them. So I've had people tell me that like some testimonials that they've written, some reviews, and be like, yeah, he helped us get into a home. I don't know how he did it. And he helped us get into a home a lot faster than we thought we could. This has been so awesome. And really, like, all I did was meet with them. They just didn't know what they didn't know. We educated them and they were ready to go. So like, did I work magic? I don't think so, but she does, and that's great because now she's like, yeah, whenever I'm buying a house, I'm working with you, So, okay, well, I hope this was helpful. This was long. I appreciate you guys. And yeah, what are your ahas? We always finish with ahas. Anything in particular you learned today that like, okay, that's what I'm going to implement.
I like that you have the data on your listing presentation of the last 3 decades of the interest rates and then like the last decade.
Yeah.
Sales price.
Kind of helps them build perspective, right? Because the media is they thrive off of bad news. And so if they can say rates are as high as they've ever been, like people are going to remember that and they're going to be scared about it. But really, that's not that bad. So I want to give them proper perspective. That's good. The what? Oh, spin selling. Yeah. It's a book you can buy online. It was done I think it was like 40 years ago. So it's kind of old, but it still applies so well today. It goes into a lot of detail, but yeah, I think it's the best sales approach I've come across that applies to real estate. So sweet. Ian, anything from you? Yeah, good. Yeah. It's a good way to add value. It's a good way to reach out to people that's not a bother. People are more than happy to share that information with you. And then it serves your purpose of letting them know you're in the business. And if they're ready to sell, they can work with you. So, okay, sweet. Well, thank you guys. You guys are awesome. Best of luck. If you guys feel like you learned something, I'm trying to do all I can to get my Oh, I deleted it. Oh, that's right here. My review's up this year. If you'd like to, you can scan this code and leave a review and just, talk about how good looking I am. I don't care.
How does one go about doing their, like, Keele Real Estate?
Yeah,
So it's like, you just say, I'm Keele Real Estate.
here's the
Or
thing.
you have to like formalize it.
You don't have to formalize it at all. And
So
that's
would be Gray Mountain Real Estate.
perfect.
Gray Mountain.
What's your logo? Just make it. And what I've found is, and that's one of the beauties of Keller Williams is that they let you do that. They let you brand yourself. Like on my for sale signs, I still have Keller Williams at the bottom, but what people see is Keele Real Estate. And what I found was my first signs were Keller Williams everything and my name, right? So that's great. But as soon as I had a sign in my neighborhood with my face and my logo of Keele Real Estate, people see that as, oh, you're doing really well. When really, like, well, yeah, I made a logo. That's it. So it's no different for me. But branding, I don't know, it kind of gives off that perception that you're doing well, that you own your own business now, you're not just an agent. And so I'm a big proponent of branding, and I've just seen it work in my own business. It made a big difference. So, yeah,
That's awesome. Thank you for your time. Appreciate you doing this.
you're very welcome. Well, if
Did I
there's
give you any bonus points for doing this?
no, it's just
Goodwill?
it's a way to give back. Like I said, I